Novel revision, question number 1. Oliver suffered a lot in his life. Discuss. From the very beginning of the novel, it is clear that Oliver's life was a chain of death, struggle, neglect, starvation, misery, bad treatment, suffering, poverty, and hardships. First of all, Oliver's mother died just after giving birth to him, and so he was sent to the baby farm. There, Oliver and 30 other children were treated badly like animals on a farm, always hungry, beaten, neglected, and badly treated. Then, on Oliver's 9th birthday, Mr. Bumble took him to the workhouse, and after 3 months of a slow starvation, one of the boys told the others that he was so hungry that he was about to eat the boy sleeping next to him. After a long discussion, they chose Oliver to ask for more food. And then he was punished and he was beaten in front of the other boys so as not to ask for more food again. He was locked up and a reward was offered to anyone who would take him away and use him for work. When Mr. Sowerberry took Oliver to his house, Noah treated Oliver badly and intended to make Oliver's life a misery and repay him every insult he had ever received. Question number 2. Discuss the theme of corruption represented by Mrs. Mann and Mr. Bumble. The theme of corruption is one of the most important themes in this novel. Mrs. Mann, for example, was a cruel woman with no motherly feelings. She believed that a full stomach was dangerous for the children. So, she gave them enough food to keep them alive and kept the rest of the money left to herself. She also kept the gate of the baby farm always locked to stop any visitors from coming in suddenly and unexpectedly. Mr. Bumble was another example of corruption in this novel. He was a big fat man, often bad-tempered, and was full of self-importance. He was the local policeman, chosen by the board in charge of the workhouse to announce their visit to the baby farm. Question number 3. Jealousy caused trouble to Oliver. Discuss. Noah was jealous of Oliver because Mr. Sowerberry took Oliver out with him to the funerals and burials. Noah treated Oliver badly. He tried to make Oliver cry by hitting him, pulling his hair, and calling him horrible names, but it was unsuccessful. So he tried personal insults by calling his mother a bad, wicked woman. Oliver got mad, hit Noah, and knocked him to the ground. When Mrs. Sowerberry and Charlotte came, they beat Oliver and locked him in the cellar. When Mr. Sowerberry's home, he too beat Oliver hard to satisfy his wife. Question number 4. Oliver took a brave decision that was a turning point in his life. Explain. After the fight between Oliver and Noah, Oliver decided to go to London because it was a great big place where nobody, not even Mr. Bumble, could find him there, and it was a good place for brave boys to find the job. Question number 5. If you were Mr. Sowerberry, how would you behave with Oliver after his fight with Noah? If I were Mr. Sowerberry, I would have talked to Oliver to know the reason why he got mad and hit Noah, not to beat him to satisfy his wife and Mr. Bumble. Moreover, I would have beaten Noah and locked him in a cellar, not Oliver, because he is the one who started the fight. Question number 6. What do you know about the Artful Dodger? He was a strange-looking boy of about Oliver's age. He had a dirty, ordinary boy's face, but he behaved as if he were an adult. He was rather short with little sharp, ugly eyes. He was wearing a hat and a man's coat that was too big for him and reached almost down his feet. He was called Artful because he was very clever at getting whatever he wanted, and Dodger because he was very good at not getting caught when he did something wrong. Question number 7. Oliver's journey to London proved his courage and strength. Discuss. It was a very tiring journey. Oliver had to walk for 7 days. He slept in the open fields. He lived on little pieces of bread and water that he had bagged. He was cold, hungry, thirsty, and lonely. Most of the people were unkind to him. Some thought that he was too lazy to work. Others chased him out thinking that he was a thief. Only 2 people were kind to him and gave him some food, an old woman and the gatekeeper on the road. Question number 8. Oliver's innocent face helped him a lot. Explain. With no harm intended, Mr. Sowerberry made use of Oliver's pathetic appearance. He made Oliver collect dead bodies from houses, accompany the coffins to funerals, and got out to burials because of Oliver's expression of sadness. Question number 9. What would have happened if Oliver didn't meet the Dodger? If Oliver didn't meet the Dodger, he would have died out of hunger, like his mother. Question number 10. What was Fagin's reaction when he saw Oliver watching him? When Oliver walked up, he saw Fagin getting a small box from a hidden hole in the floor. He opened the box and looked at the rings, bracelets, and jewels. When Fagin saw Oliver watching him, he closed the box with a loud crash and picked up a knife and asked Oliver if he had been watching him for a long time. Oliver answered that he hadn't. Fagin put down the knife and told Oliver that those things were all that he had for his old age. Question number 11. What was the aim of the unusual game that Fagin played with the boys? Fagin put a handkerchief, a watch, and a notebook in his trousers pocket. He walked up and down the room holding a walking stick just like old gentlemen who walked in the street. The Dodger and Charlie Bates followed him and stole everything in his pocket secretly, without being seen or felt. Oliver liked the game, but he didn't realize that they were teaching him pickpocketing. Question number 12. You're a clever boy, my dear. I have never seen a quicker boy. Comment. This was said by Fagin to Oliver. When the pickpocketing game was played so many times, the 2 boys went out again to do some more work. Fagin advised Oliver to take the Dodger and Charlie Bates his model, especially the Dodger. He was a great man, and if Oliver copied him, he himself would be a great man too. Oliver was puzzled. He couldn't understand the reason between that game and being a great man, but telling Oliver this, Fagin was working on reversing and corrupting Oliver's manners. Question number 13. Trace the themes of corruption and innocence. Mrs. Mann was an example of corruption in this novel. She believed that a full stomach was dangerous for the children, so she gave them enough food to keep them alive and kept the rest of the money left to herself. She also kept the gate of the baby farms locked to stop any visitors from coming in suddenly and unexpectedly. Mr. Bumble was another example of corruption in this novel. He was the local policeman chosen by the police in charge of the workhouse to announce their visit to the baby farm. He always announced the visit a day before, and so whenever they went to visit the baby farm, the children were nice and everything was okay. So Mrs. Mann has never been Quote. Another example of corruption is Mr. Fagin. Fagin was corrupting and reversing Oliver's morals and turning him into a thief. He made him find happiness in stealing and pickpocketing through playing a game. He told him he was quick and clever and would be the greatest man in London if he went on like that. He advised him to make the Dodger and Bates as his model. As for the theme of innocence, although Oliver lived with Fagin and his gang, he stayed innocent and never changed. First, he didn't realize that the handkerchiefs handed were stolen, and he believed Fagin when he said that they took them out to be washed, even when he spent his time taking out the marks of them. Second, he thought that the Dodger and Charlie Bates really went to work. Third, he didn't realize that the pickpocketing game was just a training to pickpocket people until he saw the Dodger and Bates stealing Mr. Brownlow. Fourth, he believed that the stolen jewels in the box were all what Fagin had for his old age, as he told him.